Imagine waking up tomorrow to discover that your job no longer exists. The skills you've spent your entire life perfecting are now obsolete. How would you react? How would any of us react? This is Joao's story, but it could just as easily be yours. Joao was a dedicated worker, committed to his stable career. Like so many others, he never imagined a world where his hard-earned expertise would no longer be needed. For 15 years, Joao operated machines in a factory. He took pride in his work, knowing that his hands were responsible for keeping production flowing day after day. The factory was his second home, a place where he forged friendships, shared laughs during lunch breaks, and maintained a routine he thought would last a lifetime. But Joao wasn't alone. Around him, millions of workers just like him were carrying out similar jobs, providing for their families, securing futures, and building lives they believed were stable. Joao lived for his family. His job was his security, his purpose, but everything he thought was certain was about to change. One day, Joao's world began to shift. What had once been whispers of technological progress became an undeniable reality. Automation arrived, swift, silent, and relentless. Machines, more efficient than human hands, began to take over. They worked without tiring, without error. They didn't need rest, they didn't need breaks. And Joao, like millions of others, found himself facing a new and terrifying truth. His job, his skills, were no longer needed. How do you feel when the world you knew disappears? Imagine going into work one day, knowing that your job could vanish at any moment, that everything you've built might be taken away without warning. The air in Joao's factory changed. Where there was once the familiar hum of machinery and the voices of colleagues, there was now an eerie silence. Joao's co-workers, one by one, started to disappear, replaced by sleek, intelligent machines. At first it was subtle. A friend he used to chat with at lunch was suddenly gone. Then another and another. Empty chairs at the break room table reminded Joao that his turn was coming. And soon enough, the day arrived when Joao was told he was no longer needed. The machines had taken over his role. Joao was now just another number, another casualty of progress. What happens to a person when everything they've worked for is taken away? Joao's life turned upside down. The certainty he once felt that his job would always be there, that his skills would always be in demand, vanished. In its place came insecurity, fear, and self-doubt. He wondered, what now? He questioned whether the world still had a place for him, whether anyone would value his skills. He wasn't alone. Around the world, millions were experiencing the same thing. Global reports warned that as many as 85 million jobs could disappear by the next decade, replaced by artificial intelligence and automation. The speed at which this change was happening left people like Joao stunned, overwhelmed, and lost. The fear of the unknown took hold. It paralyzed Joao, just as it had paralyzed millions of others facing the same uncertainty. How do you start over when you've already given your best years to one path? How do you find the courage to learn, to adapt, when everything you've known suddenly feels irrelevant? But Joao's story doesn't end here. What Joao didn't realize in the midst of his uncertainty and fear was that alongside the loss, there was also an opportunity waiting, an opportunity to reinvent himself, to become part of a new era. The world may have been changing faster than Joao ever imagined, but it wasn't just taking jobs away, it was creating new ones. The same technology that had rendered Joao's job obsolete was also opening new doors. While 85 million jobs were disappearing, nearly 97 million new jobs were emerging, jobs connected to artificial intelligence, machine learning, and the technologies driving the future. Joao didn't realize it at first, but he had something no machine could ever have: resilience. His family encouraged him to step outside of his comfort zone. They reminded him of the challenges he had overcome before, of the strength he had shown when times were tough. And so, with their support, Joao made a decision that would change his life. He decided to learn again. At first, it wasn't easy. Joao had spent so many years mastering one thing that starting from scratch felt like climbing a mountain, but he knew he couldn't let fear define his future. With a mixture of apprehension and hope, Joao started to learn about the technologies that were shaping the world around him. He enrolled in online courses, reached out to people who had navigated similar changes, and slowly but surely began to see a new path forward. Joao discovered that learning never truly stops. His years of experience in the factory had given him discipline, patience, and a strong work ethic, qualities that were now more valuable than ever. He realized that his skills, though tied to a different era, could be adapted. It wasn't about forgetting what he knew, it was about applying it in a new context. The fear that had once gripped Joao started to fade. Instead, a sense of possibility began to grow. He was no longer a victim of technological change. He was becoming part of the revolution. Joao didn't just adapt, he thrived. He took what he had learned from his years of hard work and applied it to a new role in the emerging tech world. As he looked around, Joao saw others doing the same. They were learning, evolving, and finding their place in a world that, while different, was full of new opportunities. And Joao's story, which had once been one of loss and fear, became one of hope and renewal. renewal. Joao's journey is a reflection of the world we all live in today. The future is uncertain, yes, but it is also filled with potential. When the world seems to change too fast, it's up to us to decide whether we're left behind or whether we move forward. The future of work isn't an end, it's a new beginning. We are all Joao in some way.